and welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be explaining how I prep raw panels from start to finish for oil painting. Oil painting is a little bit different from acrylic painting. It requires a few different steps, and if you want to have a really archival surface that ensures that your painting isn't going to yellow over time or have any cracks like you see on the Mona Lisa, for example, then I really suggest that you paint on a rigid support like a wood panel, and I'm going to be explaining how to do that today. So there are a few products that you're going to need. The first one is GAC 100. 2 coats of this applied directly to a painting support helps protect against what they call support-induced discoloration oil penetration, which is essentially yellowing and cracking and stuff over time. And this completely seals the wood and ensures that your oil paint isn't going to seep down into there and cause cracking over time and yellowing like I just talked about. And so this is a pretty fluid product. I get it in this 16 fluid ounce container. It is pretty affordable and it lasts a long time. And then next you're going to need some kind of gesso. I use this clear gesso from Liquitex. It's pretty cheap. You don't need very much of it depending on how many panels you're prepping today, but it just helps further seal that wood surface and provide some kind of like tooth that your paint can stick to. And then we're going to be doing 2 coats of this, 2 coats of the GAC 100, and then going in with the piece de resistance, the oil ground. I use Gamblin Oil Ground. It's very elegantly displayed here in my plastic bag and rubber elastic just to keep it from drying out. But you're going to be applying 2 coats of this onto your surface, and that basically further again seals the surface, prevents oil penetration, prevents yellowing over time, and creates a really nice archival surface that will last like forever. I mean forever. And it also provides this really nice sort of soft, smooth, vaguely pebbly texture that's way more preferable, at least for me, than the kind of brushy texture that you get from just stopping at the gesso stage. You can stop at just the gesso stage. That was a tongue twister. But I really prefer the finish that the oil ground gives me, and so I'm going to be going all the way in this tutorial, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. I also recommend that you use oil ground outside just because it has a bit of a smell. It smells like a gas station because it is a petroleum distillate product. And so to do this, you are going to need a foam roller. I use a really high density smooth foam roller, the kind that you use for kitchen like cabinets, the kind that you use for kitchen cabinets. And then you also want a gesso brush. This is just like a really big brush that you can, you know, spread your gesso and GAC 100 with. And I recommend that you don't use a really expensive one. I mean, you don't want it to feather because that's annoying, but you also don't want to spend a lot of money on your gesso brush, because the reason that I'm not showing you mine is because I keep forgetting to wash them out after I'm done gessoing, and then the gesso dries and the bristles and it gets really disgusting and you can't use it anymore and you have to buy a new one. It's happened to me twice now and it's so annoying. So that's the reason that I'm not showing you my gesso brush. But today we're just going to be doing that. Really recommend that you do this and you follow this process if you are painting in a larger format, just because it will save you tons of money and not a significant amount of time. Actually, it will cost you quite a bit of time, but it will save you a lot of money, especially because once you know how to do this, you can do this to any panel. You can buy a panel at the thrift store and you can prep it this way. I recommend maybe sanding it down first, something that has paint on it already, but you have a lot of options open to you now that you know this skill. And I frequently will apply oil ground or gesso onto my finished pieces that I don't like or that I want to paint over, instead of just using a layer of white, because white paint is kind of expensive. It takes multiple layers, and I find the oil ground does this a bit more effectively. So yeah. All right, with that, let's jump into sealing our panel. All right, so step number 1 is going to be sealing our surface with GAC 100. I'm going to be using some panels from Dick Blick today. This is their premier wood panel. It's unprimed. It's 1.5 inches cradled and 12 by 18. I have 3 of these guys, so I'm going to be pairing them all the same way just because that is what I know I like. So our first step is going to be using our gesso brush and GAC 100, and we're going to be applying 2 coats of this to our surface. three of these guys unpackaged. And so there's going to be no mixing involved. I'm just going to take this, loosen up the nozzle, and go in there, just like that. For this first layer. I will check in with you guys again once we are done with layer 2 of the GAC 100. All right, it is about 20 minutes later. I'm gonna go in with the next layer now. Okay, hi, welcome back. These guys are done. So they're not done, but they have been sealed. So the surface, obviously you won't be able to feel it or see it really well, but it'll feel kind of vaguely plasticky under your fingers. And you should be able to notice if you've missed any spots, and if you have, go ahead and cover those up. But the 2 coats should mean that you have got everything. And so now we are going to be going in with this clear gesso. This is just a gesso from Liquitex. You could probably use any gesso. I don't really know if there's like a really big quality difference. I'm just going to be using this one, and we're going to be squirting it on and then going back with our gesso brush and doing that. And then tomorrow, once we have applied 2 coats of this, we're going to be going in with Gamblin's Oil Ground. I will show you guys that tomorrow. I recommend doing that outside just because like it has a bit of a smell to it, and it's honestly much more pleasant to work with outside, I think. And then I will bring them back inside for drying. The drying smell isn't really noticeable to me at all. And just a note for the future that the Gamblin Oil Ground, you're supposed to put it on in 2 coats. I sometimes do this and I sometimes don't. It really depends. But regardless if you do 1 coat or 2, you need to wait a full week after it's dry before you can use it, just to make sure that it all settles in and like fully becomes an archival surface. One thing that you want to do if you don't have Gamblin's oil painting ground, and if you personally like the texture that gesso gives you, you can just stop at this step. So once we gesso these, apply 2 coats of gesso onto these boards, you could stop there, and that is totally fine. I personally don't like the surface or tooth of gesso that much, and so I do like to go with Gamblin's Oil Ground. I also sometimes notice that no matter how many coats of gesso that I do, like 2 to 4, I notice that my paint is kind of sinking in, and I don't like that. And so when I use Gamblin's Oil Ground, I notice that it never happens, and I get a really smooth surface because we're going to be using a roller for that step. So again, totally up to you if you decide that you want to stop after this next step or if you want to continue. I just want to make my own preferences clear and to tell you that it is more of an archival surface. Your work will last longer and be less likely to be damaged or something in the future if you proceed with the whole steps, like the whole workflow. So yeah. Basically now we're just gonna apply 2 coats of gesso, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow. We are outside for this part. I'm gonna go ahead and put my hair up because it is obscenely long because I haven't gotten a haircut in over a year. Yeah. So I already mentioned this. But now we are going to go into the oil ground step. Basically what we're going to be doing, oh, my cat's up to this side, he's very cute. We are going to be using Gamblin Oil Ground. That is this guy. And you're going to need like something, like the head of a screwdriver to get it uncapped because it is pretty hard to get open. And it is a very thick product, and it is also kind of dangerous to inhale the fumes of, so you are going to want to do this outside. I don't really notice the smell if I bring the painted things inside to dry, so maybe that's something that you can do. You can also leave it outside if you want, if it's not a windy day, and if you're not going to have debris getting in your paint. But basically, you are going to put this oil ground using a fine roller. I use a roller that's meant for like cabinets. You don't want one that's feathered, you want one that has a very smooth finish. And so we are going to be using this very thick product and putting it on our panels over here. I'm going to dust them off a little bit beforehand just in case they have any debris on them. And then we are going to roll this on and do the first coat. For one set of panels, I already have the first coat done, and this will be the second coat, but you basically want a full day at least to dry between coats, and then before you use the panel, once you have that second coat on, you want to wait a week, and that's just the recommendation that they have on the can here. So yeah, we're just going to follow the directions. Yeah, alright, let's get started. Alright, so I have finished basically rolling on the oil ground on all of these. I have 3 of them stacked up over here, one's over there, another one is up there. And I am so glad that the mast of my easel goes all the way up there, because otherwise I would have a tricky time finding a home for these guys. So that brings us basically to the end of this video. I hope you guys had a good time. I hope you learned a lot. We went from raw wood panel all the way to completely prepped and ready to go. And I just want to reaffirm that you should do 2 layers of that Gamblin Oil Ground, waiting overnight or at least a day in between your layers, and then after you put the second layer on, you need to wait a week before you can actually paint on it, and that's just to let everything dry and set and cure completely. And then referring to the rollers that I use this kind of roller. It's from Impact. It's for smooth surfaces, and it's a high density foam roller that is 4 inches long to go onto my roller thing. And yeah, so to summarize those steps again really quick, we use GAC 100. We put 1 layer of that on, and then we put 2 layers of clear gesso. You could also use white gesso, I guess, if you wanted to. Doesn't really matter because we're gonna be covering it up with the oil ground anyway. And then 2 layers of that oil ground, and then a week before you actually paint on it. Yeah, all right, that is basically the end of this video. As you can see, there's just a wall of panel behind me drying, and I hope you guys had a good time, and I will see you in the next one. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. All right, bye guys.